wanted to speak about something that can happen when people identify their neurodivergence or are diagnosed later in life. So in adulthood, in middle age, in later life. And this is a thing I could talk about forever. You know, as someone who goes through the diagnostic process and through post-diagnosis and post-identification support with therapy clients and coaching clients, and also as somebody who went through that process myself and has seen other people in my life go through that. But the really specific thing I want to zoom in on is the idea that sometimes when people get a diagnosis or recognize in themselves neurodivergence, autism, ADHD specifically, later in life, that can become almost a kind of identity. That can become the lens through which they see everything. And there are people out there on social media kind of criticizing that as a form of identity politics, of people wanting a label, of wanting to join a club. And suddenly everything's about neurodivergence, and this can come from family and friends too, where someone who, once they've had that kind of revelation, it can become really central to the way that they think about themselves and the way they think about their experiences. And one of the things I wanted to reflect on that I notice people experiencing and I support people through when I'm sitting alongside them on this journey is this experience that most people, especially if they're going through an assessment or exploring the idea of neurodivergence in their 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond, it's like the world gives us instruction manuals for what humans are like, how it is to exist in the world. You know, these are the control panels, these are the experiences you might have, these things are good, these things are bad. And that people who reach that stage without neurodivergence being identified, they've been looking at this instruction manual and finding it doesn't work. Like, it says just press this button. I don't have that button. I've got a dial over here, then that's not in the manual, and this red light has been flashing for 10 years and nothing in the manual tells me what to do about that. And finally being given this other lens to look through, this other form of explanation, this idea of, well, if you were to see yourself in this light of autism, of ADHD, of ADHD, it's like being handed a different manual that's slightly better attuned to you. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. People are different from each other. But this is a manual that says, look, some people have this red flashing light and this is because X, Y, Z, and this is what you can do about it. And people discover, oh, that works for me. That fits. And I've got this better explanation of myself and of who I am and of what I experience and how I see the world. And the undiagnosed, unidentified neurodivergent experience is largely one of not making sense to yourself, not making sense to other people, and not fitting in. Because everyone else around the world has these buttons and these lights on the dashboard, and they've got everything it says in the manual, and I don't. And I don't make sense to me. Other people throughout your life are saying to you, why don't you just do this? Nobody else is complaining about that. Just do this. It's fine. Everyone likes this. You'll be okay. And you're not okay. And you're not fine. And you don't like it. And so being handed this way of understanding yourself, and also the experience of making sense to yourself, making sense to other people, being able to connect with other people who say, yeah, me too, and fitting in that group. Of course, that becomes the lens through which you see yourself. Not because you want a badge or to join a club or to fit in, but because things make sense that never did before. And the things about you that you've been told you're wrong about, that other people don't understand, you find a language and an explanation and a way of making sense of that. Of course you grab that with both hands. It's not everybody who does that, but it's a fairly common experience. The irony is that there's now quite a loud backlash against that kind of neurodiversity movement and neurodivergent people speaking out about their own experiences. There's quite a large backlash of people saying, no, that's not your experience. No, that's not how it is. We're the experts. We can tell you what neurodivergence is and what it isn't. You can't have that label. You don't have that experience. You're not really struggling with the things you say you're struggling with. And that initial experience is replicated all over again. But yes, I just wanted to acknowledge that for lots of people, finding this language, a loved one told me that their diagnosis was like being handed the keys to the universe. Suddenly things make sense that didn't make sense before.